more dead but still alive.
Arrival in Alaska. First time landing so far from home. Brought over gushy marshland and sand-surrounded birches across the abyss of a flooded Manitoba. Flying so high that I look down and feel as though the aircraft is still, above some continent-sized slab of Swiss cheese, previously never mentioned by Western explorers, nor by Inuit folklore, nor captured on satellite imagery. The sense that the world I had known previously was rapidly changing, like that scene in Interstellar where McConaughey rummaged through the dumpster fire of a disparate landscape, surrounded by stimulus completely unrecognizable to him, or the ancestral DNA woven into his unconscious. As the home and beloved children he left behind were shot through fast-forwarded time as each second passed. All alone, a new landscape with things the salami-eating, spaghetti-twirling Italians of my father's coated side and the potato-mashing, Guinness-gurgling Irish of my mom's could never have predicted. And suddenly, the gravel trucks and silt-stained cross-country behemoths of necessary transportation had boxed me in and stuffed my mouth with the ash and mossy stone of this fattened frontier. Anchorage is a city and a frontier at the same time, with its ugly, dejected status, lying drenched in chemical salts and bridges of ice thicker than southern thighs, all failing to greet the naive newcomer with a doormat to wipe off muddy shoes, nor a smile that bears pearly ivory. Instead, it displays the fangs of Amazonian piranhas, and tattooed in the plaque reads, "Don't kill yourself, idiot." Wimp? Spent a week on the grounds of the lodge, somewhat alone, but meeting new people and becoming acquainted with strangers. A grand takeaway of this whole experience was that it's good to do something new, to make friends in the unfamiliar, to search for pockets of collected air in the ocean where buddies might huddle for warmth and feed one another garlic-scented bursts of oxygen from Tonsil Stone Cavern to Geographic Tongue Arena. At first, it was a process of getting very situated in furniture, planting butts in old leather chairs, once sneezed on by wealthy elders, learning about the responsibilities of a restaurant job. Combining the duality of thrownness and new beginnings versus excitement for chances to self-educate. And the oddity of Alaska's reality at its belly button. This belly button reality is that swaths of land, once occupied by local tribes, perhaps through caribou hunting, or lynx watching, or stargazing, or storytelling beneath explosions of orange mixing awkwardly into stretched streams of green kinetic stardust up above, were now paved over and shelled by grumbling lawnmowers or flat-nosed coach buses, or sputtering 4x4 golf carts. A place that has retained its sense of wonder despite these factors of Western intervention, of contributing plastic blueprints to convince tourists to separate themselves from a bundle of life savings.
Yeah, an asphalt angel?
Because even though there's a mobile black tar ash and humming electrical boxes, how could one peer at the gabled crest of quartz identified at Denali and not have to raise wrinkled wrists to eye to disperse a tearful nectar of salt water?
Yeah, when I look at myself in the camera, it looks really cool actually because it looks bluish green actually. Yeah, up there it's like totally different hue.
I have. Oh wait, no, I don't. I thought I had my Polaroid camera with me, but I don't.
Tim. Yeah, it's sick. Filming a video. Run! Run! Oh, a bear! Oh my god.
What?
Beautiful. Fucking beautiful.
Talkeetna is the nearest town to the lodge. found pushed towards the end of a highway matchstick, lit by the overbearing flame of tourists purchasing fleece moose-shaped caps and pine-scented candles, and settled by the aggressive momentum of the convergence of three rivers feeding glacial waters at a pace comparable to a freight train operated by a meth addict. The odd contrast of cheap goods, false interpretations of Alaskan culture huddled tightly in saran-wrapped, vacuum-sealed foreskins of oil, and subsequently sold to those who wipe the dirt off their Michael Kors boots with each sidewalk step, versus the obvious indicators of Mother Nature's ugliest and most essential organs. Our beautiful maternal figure gifted us this landscape for us to play on, as if she sliced off the peak of her collarbone and set it down beside an anthill which needs calcium to replicate beyond bounds, does not want us to see this part of her. Walking around Talkeetna is being shrunken to the size one would need to glide along a blood cell, surfing the pumping currents of reddened arteries, before landing suddenly in a city with doorknobs made of cell nuclei and windows carved in the endless skyscraper tower of somebody's spine. To then look at a billboard and realize that the community you've stumbled upon is parasitic and slowly burning down a ribcage to make autonomous vehicles. I mean no insult to the residents of Talkeetna, but much like most of Alaska, that place is purely function over form. A factory of army green and Squidward gray crumbles of rearranged cliffs, of salmon-filled networks of snaking ravines, rather than stainless steel conveyor belts. The primal sense of Talkeetna extends beyond its place in the natural world, or its existence prior to human intervention. It's a rare peek into the rawest form of existence one's eyes may ever feast upon, give or take several malignant gift shops.
It's true. Wait, now you stop?
The song isn't good for it.
Okay, wait for it. You can keep moving to it. This is kind of a beautiful shot, honestly.
You look like something that would be like one of the world mysteries, like Mothman. You're breathing so heavy.
My first time working at a restaurant. The beginning, once that period of learning was over, and my ass had burned 2 perfectly rounded, watermelon-shaped indentations in the waxed cow's skin of the seat I'd been sitting in for 8 hours every day, became a balancing act of action in maintaining my sanity. I remember walking down the winding hill, covering my eyes from the flashlight glare of a sun peeking through dimmed overcasts and rupturing brightly through heavy layers of dew, turning the confusing array of neon green to a fireworks show. On this commute, I would blast 3 specific Bruce Springsteen songs to amp me up prior to my supervising shift. A jolt of masculine energy through eardrums, tickling my brain with a gilded feather, and exploding shockwaves from elbow to kneecap, all of which for the purpose of raising the gauge of my spirit to prepare for another shift of being in charge of frustrated strangers. This was my routine for a few weeks, and though I might brush the memory's dust off with a gust of nostalgic prose now that this period of my life exists as a closed chapter, at the time, I fucking hated it.
It looks so green around you in the camera. I mean, and in real life too, but.
It's funny because it's all different shades of green, but they kind of mesh together into one shade. I prefer to hunker down into myself, getting lost in the split cavities of my cranium, and at risk of sounding like the fattest cornball lugnut moron, I'm an individual who requires some amount of solitude to recover from repeated exposure to the external world. I crave peace of mind like a cat staring down a squirrel and imagining its hairless thighs sprinkled with rosemary and thyme. I crave it like a fireman begs for one more moment to house down a granola bar and peck the cheek of his wife's portrait prior to being sent off to an old farmhouse, bending and disintegrating in a ball of truffula orange. Working at a restaurant, especially in a management role, forces one to utilize all conscious reserves on the world fenced out from the psyche, on the plains of unpredictability.
I'm about to go pee. Right here. Next to this river. This cow parsnip. Oh, his guts.
I know. I want him to die with dignity and plants.
The liquid influx of life, suddenly pulled apart like an overpriced croissant and left bludgeoned and bruised, face down in the cobblestone streets of Paris. Life beginning, swirling ferns unraveling, and spitting out their green tongues towards the heavy gray clouds above, begging with the smirk of a stagnant tribe leader for the wonderful relief of water to tumble down, to drown the parasites and turn their sharp bug tusks to moldy mush. To revitalize the nutrients of ancient soils so that their expansive networks of roots might find new territory. The Roman Empire was a manifestation of life's need to spread out, to dominate for even a moment, to ensure the stability of survival is within arm's reach, for enough time for collective heaving chests to gather their oxygen and leisure.
Sorry, I got it kind of dirty.
Where is he?
He's
Oh.
He's still alive,
Oh, let me get a little shot on him.
but he's barely alive.
Oh.
Mister.
There's little different from a top-down vantage point of this elderly empire, which is noticed by historians and curious hobbyists alike, and the neural webbing of mushroom communities hidden beneath tree roots and trim grass. One man lives the life of one man and finds people that he can connect with and care for, that almost serve as a healthy extension of himself. One man will work tirelessly so that his community, these disconnected limbs of his soul, which move independently and flicker freely, that in their state of uncontrollable openness he so deeply loves them for, and witnesses the divine intervention of God through, will make it through just one more winter. Perhaps at the turn of the season, with bellies partially plump and ribs sheltered by more than a veil of rubbery beige or black or whatever, as the fires can be dimmed and the garden's perennials can explode from suddenly spreading permafrost, this man can catch more glimpses of such heavenly life in motion.
This is like, hurry the fuck up.
Are you talking about like 1970s? It's somebody's house. That's one of the
It's very ancient, it feels like. Yeah. Feels like this part of the world's been covered by water for like thousands of years, and this is your first time like getting the chance to. Yeah.
We find ourselves again in Anchorage. Imagine Iceland's most famous city, but stripped of woolen sweaters, and in place of Norse mythology, looms a godless, over-industrialized, tourist-friendly emptiness. I read an article from an old National Geographic magazine, which I had picked up at a thrift store in Wasilla, peeling back the pages at the corners which had not yet been reduced to the overexposed thinness of toilet paper used in a child's mummified Halloween costume, or as a headpiece made of nefarious chemicals donned by the elites of lead-poisoned, asbestos-breathing boomers, and found an article about the struggling native population. I don't know if the case of modern times in Anchorage mirrors that of the 1970s, when this petrified article was published. You'd think it had been carved on the Rosetta Stone and left to stall time in mucky peat of a Scottish bog, the state this magazine was in. But I noticed an image of a drunken teenage Inuit girl in motion, blurred by the camera's inability to adapt to the force with which she was colliding with a nearby concrete curb, appearing transparent and ghastly enough to be in granular flux with the pavement behind her. The cause of this Goliath kinesis towards a sequence of split teeth and bloodied lips was a police officer, bent like a wooden doll, forcing a triangular knee into the twisted knot of her spine. This land is a battleground of varying armies and militias. some tied to the esoteric ambience of the all-seeing eye perched above the Navy atmosphere, some of heavy metal bored past the hardiest layers of Earth's crust to extract the precious resources of Mother Nature's gut microbiome, and some between cultures of integration expected to adapt to cultures of deceitful selfishness. Dead dragonflies on the side of the highway. Symbolic frames in the unconscious, at first with decent separation between one another, displayed in slow motion with enough reverberating room for one to poke their nose in and suck in a heaping breath of fresh, transparent oxygen, providing necessary air, like a well bored into an aggressive creek, not full of liquid, but full of the right memory of liquid. As time passed and routines became more like molasses on the soles of our shoes, sealing us to the pavement with the same force as a terrible army of microscopic bodybuilders mistaking our shoes for their Trojan horse, said gaps between the frames grew smaller, until one couldn't even wedge the greasiest of volcanic pimples between the gaps, without worrying that it might bite down and shoot gallons of pus and blood into the eyes. These were experiences of importance to the impending car crash of fate, the warning signs of bright green acid teardrops staining a Kansas cornfield prior to a house-stealing tornado. The closures felt in the depths of the mind, the sequential oddities that dropped heavily on our doorsteps with the scent of a bag of flaming hot prankster dog shit, were signifiers of a worsening situation. A message from something beyond the characters of our mundane existence, warning us to press our ears to the floor, tickling the carpet with the tiny blonde hairs of our jobs, to listen for the murmur of a wild, beastly tectonic nightmare, shuffling to devilish glory. We took time to ceremoniously tend to the frail bodies of these deceased critters, sensing the mythology of our own lives with chipped and cracked and crumbling wings, or bits of the universe's most detailed eyes falling between the folds of our palms. How could nature's prime predator, the bug terrorists, also known as dragonflies, fall from grace in such astounding quantity? This part of the documentary I'm kind of struggling with. I have decided not to write anything for it, and I've already tried to speak off the top of my head about this subject, but I feel like I can't really articulate how I feel about it, so I'm just going to state what happened pretty plainly and give a very concise version of my perspective on it posthumously. In the beginning of August, one of our friends, one of the people that we worked with, somebody that we knew pretty well, that we had spent a lot of time with, that was a sweet and quiet and good person, this young 21-year-old guy from Puerto Rico named Jose, was stabbed to death by another employee in the restaurant in front of a bunch of my friends, in front of a bunch of guests. Just a lot of people that knew him, and also just people that were there for vacation, witnessed this big guy come in with a huge kitchen knife and stab Jose for no reason. There was no reason, there's no explanation for it. Jose didn't do anything wrong. Even if he did do anything wrong, that still wouldn't be a justification, obviously. There were signs about the person who killed him's mental illness and his struggles. He had recently been released from prison. And sometimes he talked to me, because he was the dishwasher, this guy that ended up committing the murder. He was the dishwasher at the restaurant and had recently been moved to the other restaurant for reasons that were undisclosed to us. But he just, whenever I'd talk to him, he'd always bring up wildlife that he saw on property. He would always talk about bears that he wants to see a bear or that he saw a bear. And I just find it so weird, this obsession that he had with this like really gruesome, not horrible predator, because bears are wonderful creatures and they're like a necessary part of the ecosystem, but it's just like, it seems like his interest in them was almost like a fascination with his own reflection. And it just was really weird that he was so compelled by bears, sometimes by moose too, but mostly by like big creatures that caused havoc, that caused like, you know, intense things to happen that you don't want to mess with. And he didn't ever seem like a violent person. You know, I knew about his criminal history, and he didn't really seem to take much care of himself, didn't really have any friends on property, but he was like, he seemed comfortable around people. He talked to everybody. Everyone knew him. He was friendly, positive, smiling. But then when he wasn't working at the restaurant, he was like, he'd be clutching his temples and all this stuff. I shouldn't be talking about him because he's not the priority. But he was obviously a very tortured person, a very messed up person. And he killed a friend and a coworker. He killed somebody that my friends and I cared about. And I didn't know him incredibly well, but I knew him well enough where I'd been working with him at least 40 to 45 hours a week, every week for 3 months. And we had talked about a variety of things, typical dude things like the stock market. And I remember he helped me prank my friend Sebastian, who they both spoke Spanish and I didn't speak Spanish. So I asked Jose to write something funny that I could say to Sebastian. And I still have that piece of paper with his writing on it. But yeah, this isn't really about me or my experience with Jose. It's just a horrible thing that occurred for no reason. And it's something I can't accurately depict in this documentary. But I'm hoping that I can articulate that it's something that happened, and no matter how I say it, it's not going to capture the severity and the shock of it, because it was something that changed the course of a lot of people's lives, including my own. Even in like minute ways, it definitely reaffirmed my belief in God. And it had there was a lot of weird allusions to it when it came to all the dragonflies and the mosquitoes and the bees that we'd find dead in random places along the highway and all over the place. Like there are all these like weird esoteric signs that something was about to happen. And for the longest time I had this grip in my gut that there was something kind of wrong. And then after that, all of a sudden that knot was untangled. But yeah, it was just really horrible. A lot of my friends witnessed this murder happen, and we'll have that memory with them to the day that they die. And I don't want to say any of the things that they said to me. I don't want to reiterate their experiences, because I feel like that would be disrespectful. And I was fortunate enough to not be there when it happened. I was scheduled an hour after it happened. I was walking into work at 11 o'clock when I found out that it happened. It had happened at like 10:15. And yeah, I don't know how to say anything about it at all, because it's just a fucked up, terrible thing that happened. And a lot of people experienced really bad PTSD kind of trauma from witnessing that and holding him together while he bled all over their fucking hands. Rest in peace to Jose. And that's all I can say about this part of the documentary. Darkness and cold rolled in from the stories I've told. The season was coming to a conclusion faster than anticipated. Luxurious limbs of blossoming fireweed, as if trying to escape from or prepare for a flood, brought on by the biblical rain of Alaska, that stretched themselves as closely to the shoulders of neighboring tree canopies as they could. They sort of blocked the belly button of Denali from the right angle, proving to the clouds that they might be capable of plugging the atmosphere's gaping tear ducts. Then, suddenly, maybe over the course of 2 whole rapid-fire afternoons, having battled their way against the viral armpits of fiddlehead ferns and peacocking chlorophyll-rich giraffes' necks, to curious tourists and employees alike, they bent over beneath the weight of their own brain-pink diamonds and turned an ugly, bald burgundy. Their glory now mimicked the spoiled flesh of roadkill, discovered in the deep mud puddles of Trapper Creek's personal airplane runways. Their bodies crumpled like toilet paper, tossed out the passenger side of a Dodge Ram 1500. During September, after a large majority of my friends had migrated to their respective homelands, touching base with loved ones in their favorite sushi restaurants, replacing the gray piles and toppled over birches and matchstick moose droppings for the comforts of modernity, I would hang out after work and watch cartoons with my remaining pals. The walk home from the Employee Media Center was an unlit trail, winding like a river of exposed roots and balls of monochrome minerals, shrouded in the careless darkness of the north. Each trek down this path, through the tunnel of tree elbows and colorless ankle ticklers, served as a reminder of my proximity to the unsurvivable density of nearby wilderness.
That's so far.
Know what I'm saying? The 20 gang out here doing hardcore parkour. Yeet! Got tucking. Old man got tucking his pants. Yeet! Oh, there it is. He's doubling back. Yeet! Ooh, the one-legged.
Oh, no.
Damn. Getting that shit out? Hell no. I know you told me his name, but I'm Guatemala.
Oh shit.
Guatemala, right? Get out of the way, yo.
Oh my god.
Oh shit. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. Cheese bong. It's mad funny.
Undoing knots. A sailor perched at the edge of a dock, swiping barnacles off starchy duck wax trousers, revealing dark circles where the Atlantic sun hadn't yet burnt away at the dye. He stares off to the point where the stone walls of the harbor meet, built when he was just a wee lad to ward off waves from reducing the wooden stilts of his lobster-scented village to nothing. He lost his train of thought to the glistening sun, dancing like a children's choir of eggshell white amongst the very much alive ripples of greenish blue, sensing the salt on his tongue and pressing that familiar flavor to the roof of his mouth, callousing the inner cheek in the process. He had just come back from an afternoon, half lost and entirely alone in the stomach of the sea he shared since birth. Docking his light craft up close to the green cylinders which used to be tree trunks, and slicing the lead paint of the hull at its nose on formidable clamshells, clinging with the strength of 1,000 maritime black holes. He tossed the gooey forearm-thick appendage of elderly rope to the dock, nearly losing the tip in the crevices separating each board, asking himself through Silence Whisper if anybody had even considered repairing them in the near future. His great-grandfather might have even lost a toe between those very same splintered openings, all the way back when vehicles were powered by rubbing two smoothened stones together.
I never saw a moose.
He untied the burnt rubble of rope that had been left behind perhaps decades ago by some stranger from the tongue of a metal docking prong, intending to shovel his own woolen serpent of woven strength around this metal hand. Though something kept him from proceeding. He turned back to the late afternoon glow, now yellow like the urine of a bloodhound, sacrificing reality for the echoes of angelic harmonics heard in the deafening splashes of the horizon. Without his knowing, the chapter closed, and a new brass doorknob unlatched, revealing a galaxy of bruised purple possibilities.